Hello, you guys. Welcome to this project called Self Mirror. So, my name is Naftali. I'm a kinesiology major student, and I'm here with my friends. So, please introduce you guys' friends.
Hi, I am friend number one. I'm Alex. I'm a senior studying communication studies and civic engagement. I will be graduating this May, and I find myself as a big food lover, as crazy as it sounds, and big small business advocate. So hopefully I'll just keep exploring here in LA.
Awesome. I'm friend number two. My name is Kiana Eisen. My major is business management. I will be graduating in the fall. Let's see, my pronouns are she, her, hers. And I am looking forward to working in international relations and travel work.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lily. I'm friend number three, and I am graduating this fall from CSUN, or this May from CSUN, with a communications major and a minor in journalism, she, her, hers. And I really like to read, write, play The Sims, and go to the beach.
Hi, I'm Danielle, otherwise known as DT. I'm a fourth year journalism major at CSUN. My minor pop culture studies, aka the most whatever you want it to be minor possible. So it's like fashion and stuff that I love. And yeah, she, her, hers, my pronouns. I'm gonna stay in LA after I graduate and just keep growing up the journalism ladder.
Hi, my name is Jesus. I'm a third term of chiropractic student of a 10-term track. Just started recently, and in the future, I'm hoping to open a practice. And learning more about like well-being and health and fitness is like really like it's interesting for me. So like I'm looking out to pass on my knowledge to other people.
Hey, how you doing? I am Prince. My name is Prince. I have a degree in psychology. I am currently a computer analyst. I love shoes, and one day I want to open my own shoe store.
It's so dope. So that kind of movement that I just did right now, that's what I do in my YouTube channel. So I'm a YouTuber, a live streamer, a freelance dancer, freelance model, and I really love traveling. My YouTube channel contains different Asian music, but I'm also branching out to different kind of music artists from different languages, different cultures, and that's how I communicate and interact with my audience. And because I love traveling and entertainment, I have also explored the Korean and Philippine entertainment industry, and I'm still kind of on that route. So thank you.
All right, you guys. So those are my beautiful friends. Today's topic is going to be about body image. So these participants don't know what the questions are. They will be hearing it for the first time as well. For participants, the first question I have for you guys is, what is your worldview? Do you focus more on the material aspects of the world? Are you more spiritual?
Okay, I'll go first. How I see my worldview, or my culture, is very diverse, versatile. Like especially with my culture, as far as influences, regardless whether it's music, regardless whether it's sports, all these different kind of influences, as well as like spiritual as well in a sense. The positive, the positive aspect of it. I feel like I said, it's a lot of like influences as well, like regarding with like I said, like as far as like sports, music, of course, and as well as the negative, as well, like with the worldview in it, as far as like with like money, like not mishandling money, regard with pharmaceutical, and as well as in my culture, kind of complacentness, as I would say. So yeah, just to give a little positive as well as the negative. So that's kind of how I see like the worldview in it. It had work to do, of course, But that's kind of how I see it in the world view. So yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, I think I'll go second. So when I heard the question, I feel like everyone could interpret it in their own way because everyone has their own background stories. So because of the Asian culture, the Filipino culture, they're very on the materialistic area because we're on survival mode. So, you know, as my childhood, they were giving me the things that I needed or like going through the traditional route just in order for me to survive. But then when I got older, I realized what I actually really wanted to do, which kind of goes against that culture that I grew up with. And so I started to see more, not from the culture lens, but more from how I personally see the world, which is more in the spiritual sense, not the strict spiritual or like religious kind of view. It's more of like being true to myself. So whatever I feel is right for me, whatever is right for my soul, if it's not hurting anyone, along with learning about other people's culture and giving that respect, that's how I would see and interact with my worldview. So,
Okay,
Go for it. I feel like in my perspective of how I see the world or how I interpret it, something that I have really come to figure out is, I guess it's a more spiritual bias, but I was thinking more of, in terms of like interacting with people, it'd be more like spirituality and how energies really are compatible. You know, you can tell when you click with someone, you can tell when you connect with someone, you can tell when you're okay being in the same room with someone, and then you can tell when you're not. You just have, and people have different interpretations of way of looking at that. Sometimes it's like they could have their own interpretation, they could call it whatever they want, but I see it more as like energies, and you know, all of that good stuff. Now mentioning of like materialistic, something again that I've also learned was materials and stuff, and like being able to purchase it, purchasing items and such is honestly such a great luxury. But someone who didn't like grow up with a lot of money, now I'm like, I used to like put it on a pedestal, but now I'm like, okay, you know, I think what's more important is like family and friends. So I've been like really family oriented, really just like keeping my circle with me and all that good stuff.
I think
Yeah. go for it.
kind of like 3 different words popped into my mind. The first one is like kind of like spiritual, same with Lily Beth, which is probably the reason we get along very well. Which is kind of like seeing people's energies and like understanding the vibe. But not only like within other people, but within yourself as well. Like if I get a gut feeling about something, I'm gonna either in that gut saying go with it, I'm gonna do it. If it doesn't say do it, I'm not gonna do it. And I've just learned over time to listen to that intuition. And because of that, it has definitely skewed my worldview. Another thing is kind of like just like because I have had the privilege of traveling to a lot of different places, I feel like I see different perspectives. So the other word that came out was kind of like a global perspective in terms where I try to be very thankful and mindful of the things that I have, because I've been to other countries and see other things where it's like people don't have as much or they just have a totally different perspective. And so I always try to be mindful of things like that. And then the last word is realistic, because I can be very, very literal. So I tend to like be mindful of that, and I take things as is. And because of that, I'm allowed to like see situations like, okay, this is point A, point B, this is how I need to move forward, or this is how I should change it, or this is how I should act in this kind of behavior. You know, if I need to ask for advice, I can. But I think global, spiritual, but yet realistic is a great, or like 3 good words to describe how I view the world.
I guess I'll go. The way I view, sorry. The way I view it, I took the question in 2 very different ways. The first way was like what I perceive myself and what I like everyone else to perceive me as, is a very open-minded individual, well, open to all perspectives and people and interests and all that type of stuff. But I feel like that just kind of like, it comes with the territory of being a liberal woman from the Midwest in California, just comes with the territory. But the other thing the question made me think about, which is a bit deep in my mind, was I view the world through a very like self-conscious mind. And whether that comes from my own insecurities is probably the case. But I realize I view things not necessarily as like a, oh, how am I impacted by that, but more of like a, oh, how am I gonna be perceived in this certain way, which I guess isn't that good of a thing, but is how I view the world, so.
At first, when I heard this question, I'm gonna be honest, I had no idea what it was asking at first. Like zero. Like I was like lost. But then I started thinking more about it, and like I kind of took it more as like how I view the world. So more like I view it more like, I guess, more spiritual in a sense. So materialistic stuff, yeah, it's good. You can buy it stuff, but it doesn't make you feel whole and doesn't help you become what you're achieving to become. Then what's the whole point of buying that stuff? It's just, it's just to show, it's not, that's when you come into the world with nothing and you leave the world with nothing. So what's the whole point of buying something that like is not going to help you in the long run? So that's how I see it. So like you should like invest in stuff that help you. Yeah, invest in other stuff too. You play around too. Not always buy stuff that like, have fun too as well. Not always be so serious, but like, don't waste your money and don't think that like, I guess like materialistic stuff will make you more happy or fill you up, because it won't. I personally think it won't.
I think that my worldview would definitely be based off of understanding and really accepting that the world does have different perspectives, that we are unique human beings that think completely differently, and that we will never ever have 100% understanding of the things outside of us and even ourselves. And so I take that perspective and that lens when I look at big things, small things, and just, really accept my understanding of it, my will to understand others, gauging other people's agency to understand me. And that's kind of how I move through the world. I think I just try to leave things better than you found it. But at times, like, you kind of also have to look out for yourself. And so it really is just accepting yourself and the things around you as a process instead of as one like whole final item. And that kind of helps you keep going.
Next question is going to be, have you guys ever heard of an African or European worldview?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, so how would you guys describe that? Go for it. Go for it.
Sorry.
You're
Sorry, this is
good, you're good.
So I grew up in a place called Santa Clarita, and it is predominantly white. And then, that's cool. Every area has its predominantly people of whoever there, right? However, the media that I ingested, the things, the trends, the things that were supposed to be considered beautiful where I lived, especially in my school, were all Eurocentric features, which includes, to answer the question would be like eye color, hair, light hair, skin color, like light skin, light hair, all that X, Y, and Z. And, kind of to connect it to the body image, skinny women, big guys. And so, especially tall. So, that's what I see. And I didn't actually even consider it wasn't there for the African perspective, or as you mentioned in the question. So that was not something that I even knew about until I got to college.
I feel like the Eurocentric view is more based on like appearances, like physical characteristics, like how she was saying, what was your name again? Sorry?
Lily.
Lily. Okay, I didn't want to get it wrong. How Lily was saying about like hair color, it also has to do like skinny waist, like for guys, like if they have muscle, that nice legs, nice pegs. For girls, nice what's called waist. While like the African was African, right? Is that what you said? African. Yeah. Is more based on like in internal, how how do I explain? More like inner beauty, not outer beauty, if that makes sense. So they're more focused about like more like spiritual stuff, like your culture, as in like your food, your person, basically personality. That's what I get out of it. More personality. While Eurocentric is more like physical characteristics, what you see.
Yeah, that's like, that makes perfect sense of like the afterworld view is more intrinsic, which it would be like a good word to describe it, where the European worldview is about status, power, and extrinsic, I can't even say the word, extrinsic like point of view where like they see something and that's what's important, but the African worldview is like if you see something inside that person, that's important.
So you guys know what an African and European worldview is. You guys know a sense of it as well. You guys actually made my job easier because I was supposed to explain that, but you guys explained it perfectly. So I'm gonna go and ask you guys, and specifically you, Jojo, after hearing the difference between a European worldview and an African worldview, has your answer of what your worldview changed? Do you feel like you're geared towards one worldview more towards compared to the other? Do you find any similarities between the two?
When I hear worldview, I also like what you guys were explaining. There's so many like intricate topics. So just like with cultures, what Prince also said, before I even get into it, I have to learn about it. So that kind of still stands where like, because they're different views and I may not even know about it, I am still open to hearing, because like, I feel like the worldview, when people talk about it, it could be a general thing. And then unless you talk with someone that's more personal, that's in that worldview, you get more facts, if that makes sense, instead of like a general judgment. Or because for me personally, the reason why I couldn't answer that question is because I didn't get to meet someone that talks about it. And so I didn't want to say anything because I didn't know about it, just like what Prince said. So like I've heard of the terms, but I just wasn't able to give a clear answer. But hearing what everyone is saying, it's still that respect that I have when it comes to different cultures. And it's very, very different for each person. Everyone has their own experience and stories. And so that's why I couldn't answer the question. But yeah, I hope that answers the question.
This is going to be geared more towards body image. So the question is, what do you guys describe and find beautiful or handsome?
Generally?
In general, yeah. What would you say, oh, that's beautiful, or that's handsome? That's a handsome characteristic, or that's a handsome
Related to the body.
doesn't have to be body.
Kindness.
Kindness. All right,
Kindness.
All right.
It's not like it takes mere seconds to be kind, and so I think that like that's a characteristic anyone can have. It doesn't like put you in a box of like you can be handsome and pretty because you're kind. So I think that's the first one because I can't necessarily put physical attributes to those.
Okay.
I'm gonna be real. Now, back then, I just thought of beautiful as a physical attribute, but you know what I'm saying? I think it's as you know what I'm saying, you start to understand like you could be beautiful on the outside or handsome on the outside, and then the inside it ain't gonna match, So I see beautiful like kind of like as life is beautiful, your growth is beautiful, like your character, just you being purposeful, you being spiritual, the type of power you have, the type of strength you have. So, and I think a lot of times, people just see it as just a physical attribute, you know what I'm saying? But with me, I see all those different kind of aspects, and I think, in my opinion, you start to see it, like in different aspects. I don't know. I think you just start to see it differently. Like whatever experiences you're going through, you know what I'm saying? You just start to see beauty and I guess is different forms, it's different vessels with stuff like that. So not just the physical attributes. So I kind of see a lot more than just physical when it comes to beautiful. So yeah, that's my take on it.
I find it very attractive when, or just like, oh my god, the dog. Within, not even just like within attraction towards others, but just like the general attraction of like, I feel like it's very valuable and important to like keep up with yourself and like your hygiene, your looks, whatever. Like,
Yes.
you don't gotta put on a face, you don't gotta like do your hair every day, you don't have to, but like, I feel it's very important. Like I feel better about myself looking in the mirror when I have a good outfit on and I have a clean face and I know my teeth are brushed and I have deodorant and perfume on. Like I just feel good in that scenario, and I look at other people and I'm like, oh, they also look good because they're clean, versus like if I saw them on another day, which like might be hypocritical of me because it's like I'm pretty bad about washing my hair. But I don't know. That's just like, if we're gonna be honest here. Yeah. But like, you know, like there's just like when someone, you can tell, like when someone, like, oh yeah, like I cleaned up today.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just
like,
effort.
Present yourself.
Yeah, like keep up, maintain, and it not only shows that they're putting effort like for themselves, which enough is like, okay, cool, you know how to take care of yourself, because a lot of people don't.
No, and I feel like it's important to take care of yourself for yourself and not for someone else.
Exactly.
I feel like I looked at the world for a long time. I was like, oh, I gotta do my eyebrows and do makeup and everything because like I want someone to find me attractive. No, it's like you don't find that eyeshadow attractive on yourself, so don't wear the damn eyeshadow. Like it's just because everyone else wants you to.
I will say though, like despite all the like intrinsic or like the inner things that are beautiful, I do have certain physical traits that I lean towards.
That's
100%. Yeah. And I think that's just something, but I also realize that some of those traits are related to my own body image and how it reflects off of that. So I also think that is something like to take into consideration. So in relation to your question, there are definitely physical traits out there that like I would prefer over others.
Everyone has their own interest.
Yeah.
That part gets crazy.
And
There's someone out there for everybody.
yeah, it's important not to fetishize and not, because you just say, oh, it's a preference, like, you know what I mean? And sometimes like that term and fetishizing can like get intertwined and get mixed, and it's not about that, because if you've seen like the past people I've been with, none of them look alike. So like it's like so it's just like being mindful, like there are certain things, but like also just being aware, like it doesn't matter like at the end of the day what you look like those intrinsic things are like set in stone, but those physical things, they can vary, but there are certain parameters in which they do vary.
Okay.
And to add to what you were discussing earlier, or what you're bringing in from the class, is our said worldviews will also take a part in both our body image and what we see as beautiful.
Of course.
And so I'm thinking like, wow, people in Europe with the European worldview may not think people of color over here are as beautiful.
Yeah, I'm feeling like we're more on the African wavelength.
I'm gonna go with that one too, but it's, now it's rolling. The wheels are turning in here.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
The floor is you guys. Like, it's great. I love every answer that you guys have given, and I agree with you guys that there are some intrinsic features that are the set in stone kind of thing. Like, if they don't have that, if they don't have that sense of agency, the sense of self-care, where they put effort into themselves, where they show that confidence, it's something that's, the set in stone as well for me. So I agree with you guys. I think that's perfect, like your guys' answers. And I also understand that there are those physical parameters, but it's not a set in stone kind of physical parameter. It's one of those things that it just varies from person to person, and it's whether you see the potential for them to evolve as a person.
And of course, like the inner traits can outweigh those physical parameters, which is sometimes why you may see people like seeing others that they don't normally go for their type or whatever. So I think that's important, which is why it kind of like reiterates and like kind of gives evidence to the fact that the inner things are more important because the physical things can be varied.
And you know what's so sad? What's so sad is that, like, kind of like Prince was saying that, oh, I like that we have these conversations. There's so many people out there that won't even open up that can of worms. And so it's like, for me, it's like there's so many people out there, and to figure out what beauty is, to see how it, changes and grows, evolves in, in your perspective. But if you come in with a worldview that cuts, 90% of the people off, you really are missing out. So that's kind of like what you said, like people that I romantically am involved with look completely different. That's because I just be curious cat. But, but I'm bringing it all together over here.
Yeah, and just hearing how y'all like talk about it and stuff like that, like she said, people don't even know what beautiful is. You see you see the physical, you see the standard on which, oh, is that beautiful? So, and then like Jesus just was saying, with the confidence and things of that nature, it's like they don't even have that confidence because they feel like, oh, that's the standard. And and I always say, fear of comparison is what crushes your motivation. You know what I'm saying? You compare and you fearful of what is what, regarding with beauty or anything like that. You're not going to be motivated to do anything as far as have yourself up or make sure yourself good. And it's not an excuse, but people only know what they know, so that's why I was basically saying, like, it's not just the physical attribute. Let me tell you something. You could be a 10, a 20, but that inside got to match, man. It just have to. That's just my personal opinion on it. I don't care how good you look. You just so yeah. I appreciate y'all y'all different perspectives on it. That's why I like it, man, to hear different stuff, man.
And that's the point of like this Zoom session and this conversation. Like you said, this is a conversation, both you and Prince. This is a conversation that isn't really talked much about. It's mainly, and I'm going to segue this into our next question. It's mainly carrying a European worldview that's mostly exposed in the media and like what we see in the newspaper. And that's pretty much a superficial, like, external characteristics. So they focus, like Lily mentioned in the past, where it focuses on like whether you're thin, the skin of your color, the hair texture, your eye color. That's something that is basically fed to us by society based on where you're located, which is also what you refer to. That's why there's different worldviews, and you don't know if your worldview is kind of influencing your definition of beauty or handsome. So yeah, are you guys surprised that a European worldview focuses mostly on a superficial, extrinsic like characteristics, or are you guys not surprised by that aspect?
I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised.
What do you guys agree? Jojo, Jesus, what do you guys think about this? Are you guys surprised by the worldview being superficial? And this is not saying that there's one worldview better than the other. This is just based on research and based on the analysis of what the culture is, the big umbrella, okay? So, are you surprised by this?
I'm not surprised because, like, especially in Asia, even like the American views are like influenced in their music as well. So probably because of all the history that's going on with America, it's not just in America, it definitely spread out to different cultures. So what Prince was saying, like you could also see that in any culture too. And so
I feel like to go off what Jojo said, like the European perspective is usually very much like we got to get to the top, we got to be the best.
yeah,
They set these very strict, hard lines of you got to be skinny, you got to be pale, you got to be all these things. Versus like the African perspective might be more, like we said earlier, more open to just like you're beautiful for being you. Like, and I feel like they have more of a, like other cultures just have a more communal, like we're in it for each other rather than just like the European vibe is like, it's gotta be this particular person.
Right. I also wanted to add, like, just like each culture has their own standards, but also like even in the Philippines, there's also like discrimination between like light or dark, and like also in my culture, like I'm Filipino, but people like me wouldn't be considered Filipino because we don't look the traditional or like the kind of standard. So like this kind of like standard is, again, it's like it intertwines with each other. It's not just in one country. It's also like it's branched out, and somehow like the only difference is the language, but the standards, each country has their own standards. Yeah.
I definitely think that, kind of like going off what Jojo said, is that concept of colorism, which is basically like within the own ethnic culture, or within their own race, which is just a social construct we have given to people of one culture's physical attributions. Colorism does exist. It exists across multiple cultures. But if you kind of look at it, it's 100% influenced by the European perspective.
Yeah, I agree.
Like it's normally perceived that a lighter skin tone is more beautiful. When in reality, we all know that, like, you know, that's not accurate because it's the eye of the beholder. And of course, it's also about like who you are as a person, kind of like talked about earlier in terms of like body image. So it's sad to kind of see that. Really interesting to know like what it's like it's like before Europeans kind of still existed, because right now the only thing we can really base it off of is the history, and history taught us, or at least what I learned in my history book, was that the Europeans took over and had a huge, like there's a huge Western like influence on so many cultures. And as a result, because they had lighter skin, and because they were the ones in quote unquote power and had quote unquote status, which was perceived to be beneficial or better, we now think that lighter skin tones are better or have higher status or have higher power. And that's how it's been. I said it, that's not like that. So really interesting kind of concept, but 100% influenced by the European culture.
Yeah. Okay, so I took the anthropology class, and people will do studies on cultures, communities, civilizations that haven't been touched, and they kind of sit in nature, like they still run off of hunting and gathering and all that stuff, you know, very rural, and they don't have this idea of like they have created their own rituals where homosexuality, gender, race, it's all blurred, and it's so defined in our worldviews that when it's not touched, it just looks blended, and so it comes off as bad because we make it bad.
Right. It's all about the perspective. Right.
So those cultures that aren't touched, that weren't necessarily colonized or, you know, intruded upon, they live life as it is. Like there is less judgment, but when we see something that's different from us, we immediately think that it's bad, and so they have a bad rep. Or all those kind of smaller civilizations don't get the acknowledgement that they deserve, like they are now.
And imagine if we didn't look at things from that physical attribution, we'd pay more attention to people's capabilities, skills, and what they can provide in terms of ability, whether that be mental or physical, and look at it from that perspective. And like the world and like the job market, the economy would just be so different. Like right now, I feel like we're at a time where people of color are penetrating those higher positions, which is nice because we're transitioning from a period where people of color are going to start outnumbering people who are Caucasian, maybe older generations who have a certain more conservative viewpoint. So it's interesting to see because we're getting near that tipping point. So it'll be, I wonder if how the economy, how the world and the world perspective and the European centric viewpoint is going to change as people of POC who have different stories are going to start to come into power, and that shift is going to start to happen. So very interesting. Probably within the next like 20, 50 years, we're gonna see that. But like we are at the moment where it is today.
I did that, yeah. I was gonna add on to what you said, is the first example I thought of when it's like people of color getting higher up and, replacing the old white people who were in their place. The first person I thought of was Virgil Abloh of Off-White, who now works for Louis Vuitton. And Louis Vuitton has been around since the 1800s, and it's an old white man who founded it. But now it's one of the hippest, coolest black men in fashion and culture right now, running this legacy company. And I just find that amazing. It's like that already shows the shift.
Mm-hmm.
And then since then, you see brands like Telfar or other just black or brown owned companies. They now have a platform to be like, hey, I don't know, but that has nothing to do with body.
No,
But, like,
it does. It does
yeah,
have to do with body image because again, like body image can be both like how you view yourself physically
Mhm.
as well as like your attire, like how you guys want to dress,
100%.
as
Yeah.
just like how you guys want to present yourself, what you find yourself feeling like attractive in, and that is my perspective. And I'm glad that you brought that up because I personally did not know that there was a rad hip black guy leading the. I personally did not know that. So
He made like clear duffel bags, and that's like never like they're a leather company, but he was just like, fuck it, we're sorry.
No,
Like we're just gonna make clear shit, and it's like that's cool.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
I also have a TikTok. I spend hours on TikTok. But one of the TikToks actually caught my attention. It was of two African American young women who were in, I'm assuming, high school. And there was a trend on TikTok before where as music is playing in the background, they state like a thought out loud.
Mhm.
And these two African American women said, I quote, "Were we really ugly or were we in just a predominantly white school?"
Mhm.
Good days are my night.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I
So
watched
what
it
do
on
you
TikTok.
guys think about that statement?
Thanks. I for the last question, I was gonna mention, because initially when you first asked the question, I was thinking like a whole other thing, but then I kind of thought about it a little bit more, and a lot of us mentioned the journey of it, and again, I was in a predominantly white neighborhood, predominantly white school, and that shift, I think it was very gradual. Like, it was like from senior year of high school to like even now. And like in 7th grade, I used to straighten my hair every day.
It took me a long time to answer this question, because I very much did not find myself attractive for the first some of my life. And I did not have the confidence, I did not have the mental strength to see myself that way. And that's always been that case. But I feel like I also view everything else as very critically, not just myself. I view the world very critically and very cynically as well. Like, I always think the worst in things. So I think the same, especially with myself. But I do think as I've grown and as I've become more like, one, accepting of myself, but two, like, just I stopped following all these skinny bitches on Instagram and started following plus size models and women who looked like me and acted like me and had the same, they'll post about their struggles, but then they'll post like, oh, I'm hot as fuck. Like, it's like, whatever, I don't know. But, so I don't find myself attractive in that way, in the physical way. But I do understand that there are components of me that could be attractive. But also, I think that the journey I've been on in itself is kind of beautiful. And like, as corny as that sounds, like who I've evolved into a person, I find, like if I met another me mentally, I'd be like, oh, that's a pretty cool chick. And like, that's how I want it to be.
Yeah.
Not that I don't care about what I look like physically. Of course I care about what I look like physically. Who fucking doesn't? It's like what I think about half the day. But on the same note, like, that's not,
The end all.
yeah, that's not who I am.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I just have a lot of hate because I don't look like everyone else. But I think we all have something like that.
Mm-hmm. But in Europe, it's very different. Where like, if you're leaving the house, you will be dressed up full face the whole nine. And then growing up in Singapore, it does not matter what the fuck. Well, it depends. Like in like the financial district and like the business district, of course, like there's kind of like a very like large spectrum, at least in Singapore, where like if you were of, let's say, like lower class, it does not matter. Like you're going to work, you can have like pajama shorts on or like a tank top and it doesn't matter. Or you can be like going out and they're gonna get up, get dressed and look cute and do the thing. And so like I think that kind of reflects back on their statement for like, well, you know, is it the predominantly white school or is it like myself? I think it's really the environments you grow up in. And the school definitely does make an impact. Like I said, like in Singapore, they also wear uniforms there.
Yeah.
So that makes it difficult to show like your inner personality and what you are. And like, because it's meant to unite students. So it makes you think less about your appearance, I feel like. For someone like me, now there are other people there who, you know, tried to look different to the best of their capabilities, but because we're meant to look the same, it didn't matter what you looked like. So I never thought about my skin tone, I never thought about my hair. Like those things didn't occur to me because we were all one. And so I think like coming to the US, it's very different. I'm like, oh shit, like I look different. I have to do certain things. I now like am paying more attention to my physical appearances because I'm more aware, because I think I'm realizing that people are aware of what I look like. And I think that's an important thing to say. I agree with their statement that it's 100% the environment you grow up in, and it could, you know, you spend a majority of your time in school growing up, and I can definitely see where that statement plays a role.
And even then, as you stated before, being a kinesiology student, it's kind of a bit more difficult because then comes the aspect of exercise and the aspect of body image changes in which, you know, yes, you have that perspective, you know, as you were exposed to new perspectives, similar to what you said, Prince, where you go in and you're like, oh, the first couple of days, you dress up nice, but as the weeks progress, you know, there's that aspect of, you know, I can just wear whatever I want, compared to like in a kinesiology major, at least from my personal experience as being a female in a male dominated career, physical attributes are very much emphasized there. And it's very difficult as a female to see that, in the sense that sometimes females tend to internalize, and I'm saying it as like my perspective as well, that I personally would internalize that, oh, to be a kinesiology major student, I have to look fit. I have to go to the gym every day. I have to work out. It's way more emphasis. There's more emphasis on like body image, in the sense of like how you look. Do you have abs? Do you have, you know, muscle? Are you able to lift weight? Do you know certain exercises? Can you encourage and motivate someone else? And unfortunately, like being something as like, for example, a personal trainer, lots of other people will view, oh, like if you're a sort of chubby person, do I really want you to train me? Do you really know, like you might have the knowledge, but someone who looks the part has the abs, the muscles, and unfortunately that actually happens to be a genetic thing. It's not something that a lot of people, but do a lot of people from not being in the kinesiology department know that, like beyond kinesiology, because kinesiology majors, they understand that. We understand that, you know, genetics plays a huge role, you know. There's a reason why, like, we all come in different shapes and sizes. But do people from the outside perspective know that? And it's very difficult. The answer most people say is no, you know. They mostly say, oh, like, if you're not working out, you're fat. Or if you're not going to the gym lifting weights, you're not healthy. And that's not the case. And like a prime example for me, again, like I said, I watch TikTok a lot. A person specifically that comes to mind for this is Lizzo. Look at her, she's very into health. She does exercise, but just because of her body type, she's viewed in a, you know, they see her as overweight. She's overweight. They think that she's unhealthy. But if you look at her regimen, like she works out, she does cardio, she exercises, if you do comparisons to her videos before she got athletic, she actually lost weight. Like this body image of like also tying into exercise and being that fit perspective can also gear towards, you know, that negative viewpoint. And so it's a very fine line that you see, but you know, I agree with you guys that in your environment, that's where you learn. And also you catch yourself noticing that your environment is affecting you once you have that sense of agency, the sense of self. Once you have that sense of self and you start maturing, you start seeing like, you know what, like, what is it that I like about myself? What is it that's important to me? What is it that I value? Those extrinsic perspectives of, man, you have to work out at the gym 2-3 hours a day for 5 days a week. You have to look fit. You have to have that body. That's a very uncomfortable conversation to have, especially because when you think about someone telling you, go to the gym, go work out, it can be interpreted 2 different ways, and it's how that person brings up the conversation.
I also feel like talking about like environment, it's kind of unfortunate that some people can't like change their environment, you know, due to like income or like just some circumstances that they may have. So like they may never realize how like their perception of like it was beauty, right? The perception of beauty won't change just because they're always stuck in that same environment. And so even though we don't have much, we're fortunate enough to go to different environments, go explore the world, even though if it's like maybe moving out to a different city or staying just within California itself. There's different like communities in California because California is such a huge state. So like just moving from one part of California to another part of California, that's like you're privileged enough to even do that, where like certain people won't be able to do that just due to like circumstances that they have. So it's kind of unfortunate that some people won't ever be able to have that I guess that awareness that like how beauty can be perceived differently of what they actually perceive it as right now.
I'm actually glad that you brought that up because again, like we have to understand that the beauty again is eye of the beholder, but there's lots of factors that come into that. There's lots of factors of beautiful and being handsome, and we have to understand that, you know, where you grew up, the financial income, you know, the social economic status that a person has definitely affects whether, you know, you can obtain that image of that you have of yourself as beautiful or handsome or not, you know, and it's something that should be acknowledged. And again, like I'm glad that you brought that up. So I do appreciate that input that you had, because again, it all interconnects. Like again, the, you know, financial income, are you even able to get that nutrition, the proper nutrition? And that's something that I've, you know, learned about even in my kinesiology class, where we talk about that, you know, we talk about that. I've had a public health class and even in my Afrikaans class. It's all interrelated. Everything is connected in one way or another. And that also ties in, you know, mental health. Because we're sponges and we absorb everything, sometimes the things as kids that we absorb is not a healthy thing that we should be absorbing. We don't know it's healthy, but over time, and that's, as Jesus said, my brother, is that, you know, if you're out of that environment, which, you know, unfortunately at times, it's not possible. And, you know, I think that comes in with understanding and going back to the basics of, you know, what you define as beauty, you know, defining beauty as, you know, that drive, you know, the willingness to go out there, you know, and I'm always a big advocate, even with friends, and, you know, I in the past have done live streams, and the message that I always give out is, you know, be comfortable with doing uncomfortable things. Because that's the only way you'll learn. And even if you're in an environment that you can't get out of, doing something uncomfortable, stepping out of that comfort zone, you learn something new. Yeah, you learn something new. That's where you know, the idea of, you know, yeah, you can never leave your environment doesn't necessarily mean that your perspective can't change.
Right. There's two comments, two sayings, right? One, it's not really, the first is not really a saying, but there is a reason people who leave their hometown, their environment, prosper when they leave. I mean, flourish. Like, there are plenty of people who do that. So that's one thing to keep in mind. It's because they're exposed to different ideas, different concepts, opinions, and they start to interact with others that they don't normally interact with, and that's how they grow and change. Second thing, I think being adult, and the whole point of being an adult, is unlearning what you were taught and creating new ideas and new perspectives. And so as you leave home or as you mature, I think sometimes we have to unlearn certain things because we thought they were healthy, kind of like how you mentioned, but in reality, we see other things like, oh, wait, maybe I shouldn't be, yelling and coming at my partner like that. Maybe I, should sit down and, do these things and, think about like certain aspects of money or be more empathetic, things like that. So you gotta unlearn what you learned.
I also think this is really small random tidbit. It's important to unlearn what you unlearn, whatever you said, that phrase. Unlearn what you learned as a kid, because I feel like as a kid we learn and absorb things, but then we also form opinions that are based on what we know as a child, and that opinion itself like follows through. It's like, I don't know, there's like specific things that your opinion will evolve.
Like you tend to romanticize certain things.
Yeah, either romanticize or the exact opposite. There's like, oh, that's awful, that's terrible, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, it might be bad, but it might not be the worst.
Right.
The next question I have is, do you believe that body image is geared and focused more on women than men? If so, why do you believe that? For me, when I did this question, I at first thought, yeah, body image is more geared towards women. Because again, that's what's more normally seen, exposed on the media, where it's like, okay, like this is a figure. But on the male perspective, it wasn't until I started thinking about how it is in my major as well, where you're like, man, men also get that body image. Notion, it's not talked about.
Exactly. We were actually discussing one earlier today. I don't know if you remember this. But we were talking about like working out and body types.
Yeah.
And someone was being disrespectful, and the way we would combat them being disrespectful was also showing the same type of energy where, but like one thing men tend to do is work out on their upper bodies and not necessarily their lower bodies. So sometimes they get made fun of, like we call them like chicken legs or like Dorito body or like certain things like that. And like, in reality, like, you know what I mean? Like it would be very difficult to even out your whole body. Like that's hard. And same thing you said about like genetics, and like that's something that I'm sure men struggle with, and that's just like one idea. But that's something to be mindful of too.
Yeah, and that's what I noticed as well. Being in that kinesiology environment, again, it's like it changes your whole perspective, and it's one of those things where it's like you start thinking, why isn't it that men are advocating, men themselves, because women themselves would advocate for their own body types, their own like body image. But then again, like, how do men view it as themselves? Like, how do they portray that body image? Because us as females, we think, yeah, it's definitely a thing where you also, judge a male's body image, and they take it as well. We think, oh, they also take it to heart as well with us, where it's like, man, like they think that they have to be a certain body type, they think they have to be a certain height, and I've heard the height comment often.
Yeah,
so
that's a good
within
one.
both men and women, where it's like, yeah, they have to be 6 foot tall, or sometimes even guys, they'll be tall. And in my perspective, they'll be tall, but I'll think they're 6 foot, and they're like, yeah, I wish I was taller. And you look at them, and you're like, but why? Like, you're already tall. And he's like, no, like, I want to be taller. The goal is 6'3".
No, I was gonna answer like why do men not advocate for it? I'm gonna be real. It's some men that do, but when you have these women empowerment, like, oh, it's my body, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, who, what, like, and then you got to think like, um, it should be equal, but it's viewed with the women more. As far women make babies. They deliver babies. So their body gonna shift and change and stuff like that, and they want mommy makeovers. You know, then they may not like their lips or something like that, so they get their lips done. It's all different kind of things. So when men be like, some men be like, yo, like you look nice, natural or something like that. Like it could be offensive in a sense. So you don't want to come off as um like you don't never want to come out like true enough like it's her body, like she can do whatever she want with it. But it's some men that's out there that do be like yo, you look nice the way you is. But if she's not comfortable with how she look, if she want to change it, like who is men, you know what I'm saying, to be like, yo, um you can't do that, you can't do that, you know what I'm saying, like but it's some men that do advocate and be like, look, you look just the way you are. But if she doesn't like her nose, she doesn't like her lips, or if she doesn't like her body, and stuff like that, like she just want to change it. And it's like, man, it don't have no say so. It's like some men will just pay for it and be like, here you go, babe. You know, I'm just to be honest, like so, and that's a sacred, man. That's very sacred, like for real. Like talk about a woman's body and stuff like that, because you don't want to walk on eggshells and stuff. It's like, baby, do these jeans make me you look fat? And then you be like, as a man, you be like, okay, should I be honest or should I tell her? You see what I'm saying? So it's like you can't, but is it really something that you want to hear? Or is it something that she, not to try to go that route, but I'm just saying like the reality of things, to where it's like men can say like, yo, you look nice and stuff like that. But if she wants to change like her body and stuff like that, like it ain't nothing that we could do about it. So that's why I don't really say anything about it. Then the curvy, nice curvy, like women like to get, how nice, butts and stuff like that. They want to do that. So it's like, it's out like, it's more than, it's women than men. It should be equal, but women, yeah, it's just everything. Look at the filters on IG. These different kind of filters with the lips and stuff like that is just, it's out there, in the society and stuff like this. I just want to say that. I hope I didn't offend anybody by that. I was just being, what I'm saying? I was just being honest. Like some men do like advocate and be like, yo, like, no, don't body shame, don't do anything like that. Then it's like she gets her, like, they talk about like, you look just the way you are, but then she keep getting her body done, body done, body done, body done, and it's like, okay, well, that's what she want to do. So what do we do? So yeah.
For me personally, I think for like, it depends on like the industry you're in. So like for fashion, I feel like it's more about geared towards women than males. Just what they advertise. Like even if you go to like a store, you see more like products or more items for females than you do for males. Like you'll just see like a little section of like male products or like male item or clothing. While if you go to like, maybe you go to like a big five or like a sporting like a sporting store or whatever, like you'll see items geared more towards like males, where you'll find like a very small section for females. So it just depends on like the industry you're in. So like for me, I feel like for fitness, it's more geared towards males just because of the products they bring out, what they advertise. While like for fashion, it's more for like females. That's personally for me. And then for like how you guys were saying how like males don't advocate for like the majority of males don't advocate for like male body positivity. I feel like it's just because like the majority of guys don't really care about that kind of stuff. They're more worried about other things, which is why like if like women are more they're more in touch with their body, not only because they have to deliver the baby, they have their menstrual cycle as well. So they know what they have to do to like keep their body healthy. It goes to like even going to like visiting the doctor. Females visit the doctor more than males. Males ignore, like if there's a warning sign that a male has, or like it could be like a headache, a small headache. I guarantee you a guy with a small headache will be like, oh, don't worry. It'll be like, I just haven't ate well. Like I'll just do something. It'll go away. While female, like if it's hurting and it's been a while, she'll go to the doctor and be like, oh, maybe this is something serious. Like maybe I need to check up. Maybe I need a professional opinion. While males, they don't care. That's why like males tend to like, and like since I'm like a chiropractor and like doing like medical stuff, males tend to like wait till the very end, and once it's too late, guys try to fix it really quickly. While females mostly like they're so in touch with their body, they know when something's wrong. They know like if they like, for example, if they missed their menstrual cycle is like irregular, like they know when it's irregular or not. If they're keeping count, they know when something wrong is happening in their body. While males, they generally don't know what's going on until it's too late.
I also kind of like want to add on to that, and I wonder if this is just like the thought between like hetero and like homosexuality, or maybe like feminine and like masculine energies, where kind of like how as you said, where like women know what's going on, so we look at our bodies, we tend to take care of it, and I think because we do that, it's seen as a more feminine thing, and so males are sometimes a little reluctant to do those things, and it's not like self-care should be for everybody. Self-care should not be labeled as a female or male thing, or whatever, gender you want to label it as. I think that's something to take into consideration too. And so that was a really good point.
Jojo, I'm actually curious about your answer with this. Just because you are a YouTuber, you are exposed into that social media avenue. So what is your thought process on this aspect?
I mean, it's similar to what everyone has been saying, because like I was able to learn about like the male aspect of it actually last year through Prince. And then also like what you guys said about social media, it is really emphasized towards women a lot more, especially like even when I go on TikTok, like even if they're saying good things about women, it's still about women. Like they're still talking about like the romantic sense, or the differences between men and women. And then also what Jesus said, it really depends on which department. But on social media, like I can really see it's more towards women. And in the entertainment industry, they really emphasize the standards of like what is beautiful or what should be tweaked, or like to hit that stage where everyone thinks it's beautiful. So I mean, everyone basically said like they went really deep with it, but just to make it short, it is more towards women. But it doesn't mean that I'm ignoring the male aspect. Like it is there. Similar to what they said, it depends on the topic. Like what Kiki said, that males, and I also talk about it with like Natalie and Prince, that for example with feelings, that's another topic that we could talk about, that is harder for males to do compared to women. And then there's just, it's facts, there are differences. But I also feel like to even be in depth, to be balanced with this, it's like when a person is aware. I feel like society, social media, it does brainwash people. And surprisingly, I mean, with the friends I have around me, everyone is awake. But if you branch out to different kinds of people, you could see the similarities because of what they hear from the media, instead of like just like researching it on their own and really like finding their own facts, instead of like just hearing and seeing from social media.
And I agree. I think that, once again, we in previous questions, that social media, what you're exposed to, and even for example, simple as like the beauty cosmetics, it's definitely like you're starting to see a shift. Specifically, the shift, as you said previously as well, it's starting to be that tipping point where people of color are now getting that exposure through social media, and like I said before, through Lizzo, through Megan Thee Stallion, Alicia Keys, they're all people that are now going into, and exploring that avenue where, it's very much showing that there is more to just having straight hair, blue eyes, because beauty comes in all different shapes and forms. And now this is going to lead up to the final question of today, which is, because this is a conversation where we talk about an African worldview and a European worldview, I actually want to go in a little bit more deeper and talk about how can we promote a positive outcome for body image, particularly to Black people. For me personally, like, I already see the change happening, like I mentioned before, through Rihanna with her launching the beauty cosmetics,
Savage.
her Savage, through like Lizzo being a spokesperson, and like even again TikTok, where she had this whole contest going on with plus size models, her having a whole revenue of like, hey, show your beauty out there to social media, be comfortable in your own skin, and how that's being portrayed as well. These are all aspects that are something that I feel like is a beautiful thing that we're starting to see. And I want to know what your guys' opinion is on expanding that a little bit more. Like, what would you guys want to continue to see, or what would you like to add into this avenue?
I think something that I would definitely like to add, one obvious one would be more representation through all different outlets, whether it's on the media, whether it's in like at a workplace, whether it's at school, a lot more representation. And something that I'd want to add is more focus on like seeing value on, either accomplishments and effort and skill set, rather than the way that they look.
Right, and not relating their accomplishments to the way they look.
Exactly. Like when you see someone, you want to say, oh yeah, they're such a cool person, rather than say like, oh yeah, they were so attractive. It's like, or like physically attractive, or like that's how you remember someone. I don't know, maybe that's just, I don't know how exactly you would do that. I don't know if it's like through TV or through like, I don't know how that would be accomplished, but that would be cool to see more.
I think that is one of those, making it constant in our language of just being more inclusive and more thinking like, oh, that is a cool person, rather than like, oh, they're cool because they're attractive.
Ideas and opinions, like, or not opinions, but concepts and ideas are passed generationally, and those ideas and things change over time. And so the next generation is always gonna things like progress and things get bigger. And so I think passing on your ideas is really important. But of course, passing on the proper ideas is what's gonna make an actual change.
I think just being in constant reevaluation, like constantly evaluating what are the needs and wants of the people around you, especially communities like the Black community. Sometimes what was needed 6 months ago isn't what's needed now. And we have to make sure that, like, if we're not reevaluating, it can become very fetishized. And so, just being like flexible in all the industries and not necessarily just factoring race. I think that there's a lot of intersectionality in the Black community, in all communities. And so I think if people understood that concept a little bit more, their practices would be more accessible.
I was gonna say more through like education, just because like we spend our entire our early years, at least from like I would say like from 6 years old all the way to 18 years old, the majority of our like early years in school, and like half the day is in school as well. So like we have like 24 hours, we sleep for at least 8 of them, and then we're in school for another 8 hours. So that leaves us with like another 8 hours. So half of our day is just in school for like the first like from 6 to 18 years. So if like teachers or like the school district was held more accountable to have curriculum and have books that showed like different views, like African American views, or in general, then people would grow up to find themselves more comfortable with like having curly hair, not having like, you know, being skinny, being having wider hips, you know, being not having the ideal Eurocentric, because I feel like a lot of like how we were saying that a lot of like school districts tend to be more Eurocentric. The books that they have more white history, while by the time you get out of high school is usually when you go to college, or you don't even have to go to college, just even going to like your workplace and talking to other people, you start to realize that, oh wow, like what I learned in school is not what's like set in stone. Like there's different, like, you know, like they didn't teach this, like why didn't they teach this, why didn't they teach about like what was that other guy's name? Well, I'm blanking out, but you know, like other like black activists. Why do they only talk about Martin Luther King? Like why is so much emphasis on him when there are so many other like for example, like the Black Panther? Like why don't they talk about the Black Panther group? Why is it always Martin Luther King? Like in every book, like you can go to any high school and I guarantee you that there'll be a section of that history book talking about Martin Luther King, and nothing after that. That's it. It's just, and it's always a small section too. It's never maybe like a page or two, and that's it. While like there's a whole chapters dedicated to like Eurocentric like views and stuff like that. So I think like through education, mostly, we'll start to see the change.
I had to write this down. Now I had to write this one down because this was important. Jesus basically spoke up on the classroom aspect, and I spoke up on the classroom aspect. I wrote this down. I was like, with involving with the school system, the classroom-based imagery programs, you know, that addresses the media literacy of it, about basically about the self-esteem and the peer influence, you know, regarding that, as well as the importance of mental health. You know what I'm saying? You don't listen. That is not talked about in high school. And I think that's important, or even middle school or stuff like that. As far as regarding with at home, you know, with parents, you know, created basically a safe place, you know, for your children to express themselves, like have that structure in place, you know, to express themselves, because it starts at home. Before you go to a schoolhouse or anything like that, it starts at home. In the communities, you reduce the stigma, you know, use the health campaigns, use health campaigns. You spoke about Rihanna and things of that nature. Jesus spoke about, you know, regarding with the men on the men aspect of, you know, about like how they need to advocate more of going to the doctor and stuff, which I do see a lot of men do advocate regarding that. Let me see. And individually, you as an individual, you know what I'm saying, accept your self-confidence, you know, basically just learning yourself, you know, in a sense, and be mindful, you know, and speak, especially casual conversation. Regarding if you have a casual conversations, you talk and the way you speak, you know, words are the most is one of the most, if not one of the most powerfulest things. So if you whatever you speak, you know, about it, somebody listen to you could be offending somebody, you know, regarding you could be talking about like body and stuff, and they looking and be not really. You just got to be aware, you know, consciously with casual conversations and around peer groups and stuff like that. Just, you know, just be aware, have a level of awareness. So yeah, that's some of the things that I think could be implemented to better the situation. Yeah.
And that's, you know, that is my answer. So that concludes today's conversation of self-mirror. Thank you so much to my participants here for being here and taking the time out of their Sunday to have this conversation with me, and thank you guys here. I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. Yeah, that is all. Bye guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Love
All right,
you.
now y'all.